Most of us are in the business of stacking days, but if you're the UCLA women's basketball team, you're stacking wins. And you're doing a pretty good job of that. Cori Close is with us, the head coach on the Bruin Insider Show. For Nick Cope, I'm Brian Fenley. Coach Close, thanks so much for being a part of this again.
Thanks for having me. We appreciate it.
I loved and I appreciated at the very end of your post-game press conference, a couple days ago, the win against Ohio State, what you said about the coverage, the media, and how that's helping expose more about women's basketball, but also women's athletics. So what makes covering your team so fun?
Well, let me just go back on that statement. I was celebrating how many sellouts we had for women's soccer this year. I was at a great crowd for women's volleyball. I just think this is a time, and I think this is a cultural issue, not just a support great sports issue. I think, it's good for self-esteem, leadership, corporate leadership. I just think it's good all the way around. So it's a really fun time to be a part of it. Specifically for our team, though, I think we have a team that is really interested in using basketball to become the team they want to become, the players they want to become, but also the people they want to become. And so when you bring your family to a game, you're seeing great role models as well as great performances. When you watch it on TV, you're saying, man, you're helping little girls and little boys dream about, man, if I work really hard, I could be like that too. And so, it's so many levels. It's entrepreneurship in the new landscape of name, image, and likeness. It's not just kids getting paid. I'm trying to use it to teach our women, how do you be self-sufficient? How do you become an entrepreneur? How do you take control of your own personal finances, where they weren't having those conversations 5 years ago? So there's a lot of levels. I think it's a really important and exciting time for women in sports.
You've always been forward-thinking in that way when it comes to your team, women's athletics in general. And when it comes to women's basketball, these last few years, we have really seen the growth, record viewership numbers in the Final Four this past year. So for you, you've been such a champion for women's athletics. To see that growth, what's that been like for you?
Well, it's such a privilege to be a part of it. We're at this very, really exciting tipping point time in women in sports. And, and it comes at a time where every athletic department is in a difficult spot. I mean, there's probably maybe 5 or 10 BCS schools in the country that operate in the black. And you're talking about so much being grabbed from them, and how great that women in sport could be another revenue producer. This is not a charity case. This is not, just something that we're trying to check a box of Title IX. This is women in business right now. Get in now. I mean, if you're an investor, get in now. You're not going to be able to afford it in a couple of years. I mean, honestly, that's the direction it's going. And that's what I hope really in LA, that people say, hey, this is hard. Dollars are hard to come by. And in college athletics, it's difficult. Use women in sport in such a time as this, through corporate sponsorship, through viewership, through media rights, to help women be another revenue producing sport for college athletics.
Cori Close, head coach, UCLA women's basketball team, on the Bruin Insider Show. For Nick Cope, I'm Brian Fenley. So with all of the rise in the attention that women's sports, and namely in this case, women's basketball is getting, the fact that when you look at the numbers, not just from the viewership, but the numbers that your team is putting up. Over 90 points per game. That's top 10 in the country. I could go into all these stats. You're number 2 in the nation, all of this. But I want to get to one number, and that is the airline miles that you have flown.
I didn't know if he was going to do 10-0.
Well, I wanted to create a little bit of suspension here.
Okay, good job.
So,
good job. You had me.
Seemingly every week, you are going across the country and coming back. And I have a feeling that wasn't just a surprise. That was by design. Why did you do that?
It was by design, except for the Ohio State game, if I'm being really candid. That we both needed a game, and it was really difficult back and forth. And we had a chance to get a bye game and play here and, maybe win by a lot. And I actually went to Charisma and to Kiki, and I said, hey, this would be the 4th cross-country trip in 4 weeks. I mean, this would be brutal. And they go, we got you, coach. We got to do it. We got to go. These are the games we need to learn to win. And honestly, I didn't really think, given the schedule that we had, that we would be at 10-0 at this point. I thought that's going to be a tall task. And but really went into it going, okay, every week is an opportunity to get tougher and more together. Because if you don't you're going to get caught because it is difficult. It was hard academically. It was hard on our bodies. It was hard just in the atmospheres in both those places. They had record crowds at Arkansas and at Ohio State for our game. All the different things that we had to go about doing. And, it was by design to have a really hard schedule. It was by design to have the first three. That fourth one was sort of a need at the end of the scheduling period. But obviously, looking back on it, it forced us to earn a level of toughness that maybe wouldn't have happened otherwise. And, I just think toughness is the only way you get toughness and confidence is that you lean into the hard and you just absolutely face it and you let it bring out new things in you. And I think it's done exactly that for us.
And it's interesting you have this stretch right now because, of course, next year you're going to the Big Ten. And this stretch is probably more challenging than anything you're going to have in the Big Ten. And obviously the athletic department is going to do everything they can to support you guys. But did you feel at the end of this stretch, just in terms of logistically and handling all the other things outside of the game, that you guys are going to be prepared for the Big Ten next year?
Yeah, this is harder. It is factually harder than anything we will ever have to face in the Big Ten. And so I said this at the end of our press conference after the Ohio State win, is our administration didn't wait till we got to the Big Ten to support us on this level. They have been doing it for several years, and this has been a gradual ramp up. We've been chartering. We've been able to strategically schedule difficult opponents, even if that means traveling a little bit more. We already have an academic and learning specialist that travels with us everywhere we go. Like, this has been a very strategic build, and to be honest with you, I'm just excited for the new adventure. We are already equipped, and I really do give credit to our administration for being willing to meet us in that space and to be forward-thinking, not be reactionary in any way whatsoever.
The space that we are doing this interview, if you're only listening to this on the radio, you won't know, but we are at Poly Pavilion. Tomorrow, you have a game against Hawaii, and we don't want to look past that. But since we won't talk to you until after the new year, and at that point you have already taken on USC, setting up for that USC-UCLA battle on December 30th. How excited are you to see two legit top-tier programs battling it out?
Well, first of all, I do want to talk about Hawaii and the fact of 1 o'clock, December 21st, important game for us, because the reason it's so important, too, is it has every temptation of being a trap game. It's really, you talk about earning toughness by all those road trips. This is another way to earn toughness because you have to focus on your process. And there's not going to be the hype surrounding it. You're going home right after the game for the holidays. I mean, there's all these things surrounding it. But I just told our team, look, do you want to be a mature, process-oriented championship-level preparer? And if we are, then we treat Hawaii the same way that we treat. It doesn't matter the emotion. The emotion can come and go. Feelings will lead you astray, but our commitments to our preparation and our process must be the same no matter if we're playing Hawaii, that a lot of people don't know, who's a really good team, who was an NCAA tournament team last year, or whether it's USC, which obviously we're really excited about. And I will say this, too. I do think I've been pubbing it so hard. I think it's going to be the first sellout in women's basketball history since 1978. And so I can't even say go get your tickets now because I'm not sure we have any left.
What a great problem to have.
Exactly, a great problem to have. It will be broadcast on Pac-12 Network, but I encourage you to tune in with that. But what a cool thing in L.A. And that's a compliment to USC and the great team they have. It's a compliment to our team and the great team we have, and so it is gonna be the place to be on December 30th, and we are going to be taking basketball into the new year in a really special way, and just really appreciate the work of our marketing staff, our game management staff. I mean, that's not easy to do, especially when there's no students and there's a sort of a lesser staff here in town. I really appreciate what's gone into making that really special.
I was looking on the website this morning. You go around the seating chart for Poly Pavilion. It says low tickets in every section. So they're going, people. I was looking, too, as well at the record book. This is the first time that UCLA and USC are going to meet both teams ranked, let alone potentially in the top 10, which it's shaping up to be.
Yeah.
So as someone who is such a champion for the game. What does it mean for LA, Southern California basketball to have a matchup like this?
Well, it really is. Southern California basketball, I was talking to Kurt Miller about this. He's the head coach of the LA Sparks, and he goes, we need to make for girls and women's basketball, both professionally, college, grassroots, that LA is the place to be. And, you know, you can go and have great women's basketball in the middle of nowhere, or you can come to LA with sunshine and NIL opportunities and great basketball and personal development and an alumni network and elite education. Like, I mean, the list goes on and on. There's very few places. If we pack Poly on a consistent basis, we're in the top 10 competing for national championships on a consistent basis. There's no reason this can't be the destination place for girls and women in sport. And I'm so excited to be a part of it.
Well, we always are so excited to have you on, and we look forward to many more times during this basketball season. Cori Close on the Bruin Insider Show for Nick Cope. I'm Brian Fenley. Coach, thank you so much for doing this.
No, it is our pleasure. And listeners, if you're listening on the radio, you can hear that we're after practice and you can hear balls bouncing. And we obviously have a really talented roster, but I just never want it to go unnoticed or unappreciated. It's about the work. It's about the process. And all of our players are staying after or coming before. They're doing the work. And we always say the work done in the dark always gets revealed in the light. And people that are going to become under the bright lights, they're going to like what they see.